It is 7:08 on April 7th, 2020. Sorry for the little delayed start. We're new with this remote Zoom meeting protocol. So I'm just going to read the public hearing and we'll get into it, the public hearing notice. So in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing via remote participation on Tuesday, April 7, 2020 at 7 p.m. Hear and act upon the application of the Woods at Farm Road LLC and Deschenys and Farrow PC. The applicant seeks a comprehensive permit for a proposed housing development entitled The Woods at Farm Road to be located in Bolton's residential zoning district at the corner of Farm and Berlin Roads, identified on Assessors Map Parcel 3C as Parcel 72, approximately 2.47 acres. The proposed development consists of 4 single-family detached home ownership units. 3 of the units will be sold at market rate, and 1 of the units will be sold at affordable to those who earn 80% or less of the area median family income, to be counted on the Town of Bolton's affordable housing inventory in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40B. Our hearing items preliminarily, we anticipate will be an overview of the 40B affordable housing process, the applicant's presentation, a discussion of the use of a peer review of town comments submitted to Mass Housing, a review of department comments received to date, and then some opportunity for public comment. So with that, I don't know whether should we identify the board members, or is it clear from the block?
I would recommend that we do a roll call just so that it's clear that we quorum for this hearing.
Okay.
Obviously, Gerard Hearn, a chairman, is present.
Present.
Bradley Reed.
Present.
Andy Kishitz. Andy, are you there?
Is he muted?
I don't believe so. Brian, are you there?
I'm here.
Kay Stoner.
Present.
And then Andy Kishitz, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's everyone, right, Erica? I mean, right, Erica? Right.
That is the board, correct.
Yeah, right. And so for other participants online or over the phone that have joined in, Erica, our town planner, is also the board's administrator. So she's going to sort of control what's on the screen. And then we have one other primary participant who will be assisting the board, Joe Pesnola, and he's with Hancock Associates. And I'll let Joe start off with this first topic of the overview of the 40B affordable housing process for anyone who's on the meeting that isn't overly familiar with the process. And then maybe Joe can also just define that the project sort of meets the site, ownership and requirements to allow it to move on to the 40B process.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Again, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates. I'm helping the board. I'm advisor to the board. I'm here under a Mass Housing Partnership grant that Mass Housing Partnership gives grants to local ZBAs to help them in administer the 40B process, because it can get complicated even if you've been through them, and I know this board has. But it doesn't hurt to have this assistance. And I'm here to try to help coordinate things and move things along as efficiently as possible, answer any questions the boards may have with regards to the process, and also just help coordinate peer review and other aspects of the process and the project itself. So from the standpoint of Chapter 40B, or the comprehensive permit law, It's a state law that was enacted in 1969 to facilitate construction of low or moderate income housing. It establishes a consolidated local review and approval process known as a comprehensive permit. It empowers the zoning board of appeals in each city and town to hold hearings and make binding decisions that encompass all local ordinances, bylaws, and regulations. The ZBA's comprehensive permit decision can be appealed, and the appeal in this case would go to the Housing Appeals Committee, which is a part of the Department of Housing and Community Development. So there's some different rules and different process within Chapter 40B that's kind of different than what zoning boards normally go through in reviewing variances or special permits. So this is a special law, and the most important thing about it is all encompassing with regard to all local approvals. So whether it's a planning board site plan review or a local board of health regulation or a local conservation wetlands permit, all of those approvals are subsumed into the comprehensive permit. So why do we have comprehensive permits being applied to municipalities? Well, the state believes that each town should share in the creation of affordable housing to disperse the affordable housing through all of the communities, and they set a goal of 10% of your year-round housing stock needs to be considered affordable, and there are some rules that govern what that means. But if a community is less than 10%, then an applicant, in this case the developer, can propose a comprehensive permit. And what they need to do to be able to propose a comprehensive permit is two things. First, they need to provide at least 25% of the units as affordable, and there's some definitions with regards to what that means. And the second is that they need to be what's known as a limited dividend organization. They need to agree to control their profit margin to no more than 20% for a for sale project. In this case, this is I believe this is a for sale project. So they need to limit the profit margin, and there's a whole process after the project is done to review that and make sure that the profits are limited. So just going back to the requirements for the applicant. So the applicant needs to, again, be what they know as a limited dividend organization limiting their profit. They need to have evidence of site control, and then they need to have a project eligibility letter from a subsidizing agency. And in this case, the subsidizing agency is Mass Housing. Now that's a kind of a misnomer in calling them a subsidizing agency in this case, because there is no subsidy here. There is no extra state or federal money being pumped into the project. It's all on the developer to propose, in this case, 4 units, 3 of which will be market rate and 1 will be affordable. And the project has to live without subsidies, but Mass Housing kind of oversees the beginning of the process by reviewing the project and all of the details of the project and issuing what's known as a project eligibility letter to the developer, which is his ticket into applying to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a comprehensive permit. And that's it's not an approval by Mass Housing. It's merely an assistance in the process to make sure that the state is overseeing all of the Chapter 40B projects, both at the beginning in issuance of this project eligibility letter and at the end of the process after this board goes through the process. And if you issue a comprehensive permit, there's a final process that the developer needs to go through with Mass Housing to make sure that everything is still right and ready as it comes out the other end of the local permitting process. So there are some little bit of nuances with regards to the process and the requirements for the submission requirements for the developer. They're only required to submit preliminary plans, not final detailed plans. And there's a series of definitions and requirements that define the submission package. So we have gone through that initial package and given a letter to the ZBA that was dated, that was last week. Just pull that up. It's dated April 1st. And we reviewed the particulars of the first three items. Do they have site control? Yes. Are they a limited dividend organization? They are. There's a specific entity that has been created for this project, which is known as the Woods at Farm Road LLC. And when that entity signs what's known as a regulatory agreement, they will become a limited dividend organization. They are in that regulatory agreement. They are agreeing to that profit limitation as well as several other things. And they have received a project eligibility letter dated December 6th from Mass Housing. We also reviewed the entirety of the application itself with regards to the regulatory requirements for submission, and we find them to be in accordance with the requirements of those regulations. They've submitted preliminary plans. They have submitted an existing conditions plan, preliminary scaled architectural drawings of for the proposed houses. They have submitted a tabulation of the proposed building type, size, footprint, impervious coverage, open space, preliminary utility plans, and a list of waivers that they are requiring this board to act within issuance of the comprehensive permit. And I guess I'll close with that because it really is the crux of the uniqueness of the Chapter 40B process, in that in issuance of the comprehensive permit, this board, the Board of Appeals, is asked to consider a series of waivers from local rules and regulations. And the big one is the zoning bylaw. They can ask for specific waivers from aspects of the zoning bylaw, but they can also ask for waivers from the local Board of Health regulations. They still have to fully comply with Title V, and they need to get an approval from the Board of Health under Title V. But Bolton has specific local Board of Health regulations that govern septic systems, and they can ask waivers from that. And they can ask waivers from the local conservation rules or wetlands bylaw. So this board, in considering the comprehensive permit, has to look at those waivers and grants those waivers. They're not variances. They are waivers. The bar is different than the bar that this board considers, or the requirements that this board considers in grant of waiver. And we can go into that when we get later in the process, as far as deliberations and what the board needs to, how the board needs to weigh the need for affordable housing versus the local concerns. And the local concerns are defined by the waivers that they're asking. And the presumption is that because the Bolton is under 10%, the need for affordable housing outweighs those local concerns. And we can get deeper into that again as we move through the process. So what I hope to do in assisting the board through the process is help you organize the meeting schedules and try to possibly have drive them towards specific project, but I think there's still need to organize your thoughts and organize each hearing with regards to the topics that will be considered. And again, organize the third-party peer review of some of the technical details that obviously are outside of maybe this board's the individual's knowledge and capabilities. And just like the developer hires an engineer, the board should hire an engineer to review and make sure that everything's right and ready. And so that when you get to the point of deliberation, you've got all the information that you need, and you've got some third-party input that everything is correct, and there are the issues that have been raised by departments or other boards in town have been appropriately addressed. So with that, I think I've gone over the overview and our initial review, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
So Joe, one question for benefit of the people that are participating tonight that may not understand the scheduling of it. I know someone asked me why are we having a meeting during this time frame when it's the COVID crisis, but so procedurally the board is required to open the hearing once application's been submitted, right? We have so many days to open it, so that's why we're having this kickoff hearing.
The board has 30 days to open the public hearing, and that can be extended, and I believe it may have been extended on this one by assent of the applicant. And in actuality, some of the emergency orders that the governor has signed, as well as the recent bill that was passed by the House, kind of stays a lot of those requirements. But that was the board did what they needed to do in setting up this public hearing. Once the public hearing starts, under the regulations, the board has 180 days to act, to close the hearing, and then 40 days to render a decision after the close of hearing. Now, some of those timeframes, again, have been impacted by the governor's emergency orders and the recent bill. And I would defer town council to advise the board in how that runs. Safe to say that this board can probably do whatever you feel is right and necessary at this point in grant of continuances and setting up new hearings and site walks and all of those things with a sensitivity to the current crisis.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. So with that, let's skip right into the applicant's presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane, representing the Woods at Farm Road LLC. On the call today, Seth Donahoe from Dusham and Dillis, who is the project engineer. Also, I believe the project developers, David Spurtner and Robert Pace, could be here online as well. I see David. I haven't seen Robert's little picture yet, but they are the proposed developer. What I'd like to do, as Joe had indicated in his agenda, I'd like to give you a quick overview of the project. The entirety of what I'm going to present tonight has been included in our application, and so I know all of this information is available publicly and has been made available to the board. But I do want to run you through it real quickly, and then obviously be available for any kind of comments or questions that you might have. So the site is proposed, the site is 2.47 acres inside. Thank you, Erica, for that plan. The lot is 2.47 acres in size, and as you can see, it is located at the corner of the intersection of Farm and Berlin Roads. The property is currently zoned residential, and it currently is pretty much a field area with some bordering vegetated wetlands in the southwest corner, or actually in the entirety of the south, to the south. There are currently two old outbuildings on the property. They are proposed to be raised. With respect to those bordering vegetated wetlands, we have met with Conservation Commission, and the boundaries of those resource areas have been reviewed, delineated and reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission. So our plans do reflect the delineated wetlands as approved by the Conservation Commission. We are proposing 4 single-family cottage-style units. They are standalone single-family units. They each contain 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. And I'll kind of come back to those in a moment. I'd like to stick with the site. The 4 buildings represent about 5.2% of lot coverage. The associated parking and paved areas are another 5.1%. So our total lot coverage on this site is just over 10%, leaving nearly 90% of the site as green open space area, non-building and paved areas. We have no floodplain located on the site. We have no endangered species mapping on the site. As I said, we do have some bordering vegetated wetlands and associated buffer zones. Getting back to the buildings, you will see there are 4 detached cottage-style homes, again, each having 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. They are approximately, well, they are exactly 1,671 square feet in size, so they are not large homes by any means. They do have a 2-car garage. They have, in addition to the 2-car garage, they have enough space for 2 additional off-street parking spots, and each of the homes has a patio outside on the back side of the structures. Although the project is not required to meet stormwater regulations under 310 CMR 10.0561, we have provided a drainage report for review by the board or its peer reviewer to provide peak rate reductions, TSS removal, groundwater discharge, and other pertinent stormwater information so that it can be determined that we are addressing stormwater in an adequate and reasonable manner. With respect to traffic, these 4 units, 3-bedroom homes, are expected to generate approximately 9.4 trips per day, with a leaving and returning 2 separate trips. So with the 4 units, we're looking at a total of about 38 total trips coming and going, each being a separate trip. So I guess that 19 leaving and coming in terms of traffic generation, and that's in a 24-hour period. So we do not believe that this will have any impact. In fact, the impact on traffic on Berlin and farm roads will be de minimis based on 38 trips in total. As Joe had mentioned, part of the 40B process allows us to seek waivers from local regulations, whereas this is a relatively small 40B project. In fact, I think 4 units is the smallest project that I've ever worked on. We do not have a large number of waivers, although we do have a few, and I'd like to just touch on some of those, or most all of those. We have a couple of waivers from your local conservation regulations, which I believe seeks to get all work outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetlands. That is not feasible on this site. So we are seeking waivers to allow for our closest unit to be 50 feet from the wetland. And then we have a second building that is 76 feet away. We have a well that's 41 feet away, and we have a pump house that is 52 feet away. So all of the waivers with respect to wetlands are buffer zone waivers, and we are no closer than 50 feet to the wetlands in any point. Certainly the requested buffer zone intrusions are well within the state law requirements and allowances. We are only needing one waiver from your Board of Health regulations, and that is with respect to the distance of the leaching field to the wetland area. I believe your local regulations call for 100 feet. Title V, and Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, or Joe, I believe is 50 feet. We are seeking to have our leaching facility 72 feet from the wetlands. So although it's meeting Title V, it requires a waiver from your local 100-foot regulation. Zoning, again, a very limited number of waivers. And I will apologize, there is a typo in our waiver list, and I will get to that. The first waiver we're seeking is to allow for a multifamily structure on a lot, or multifamily structures. We have 4 units on a single lot. I think that is actually 2 separate waivers. One is for multifamily structures on a lot. The other one is to allow multiple principal structures on a lot. So those 2 are really related to the fact that we're putting 4 units on 1 lot. We need a waiver to allow for 2 common driveways on a single lot. As you can see, we have proposed 1 driveway from Berlin, 1 driveway from Farm, which each of those common driveways serving 2 units. And we have, and I'll get to in a minute, we have met with the fire and police to discuss those entrances and how they should be constructed. Lastly, there was a requested waiver for internal side yard setbacks. That's the typo. I apologize. We have no internal lot line. What that should have requested was we need 1 front yard setback off of Farm Road. The unit to the south is 41 feet back from the roadway, whereas your local regulation requires 50. All of the other homes are in excess of 50. So really 1, 2, 3, 4 zoning waivers, 2 being related. So again, minimum number of waivers. As I said earlier, we have met with both fire and police to go over safety concerns and issues, and we have adjusted our entrances and our driveways to conform with the requirements of the fire department. And I'll give Seth an opportunity to expand on that if there's anything more to be added there. Really, that is the project in a nutshell. As I said, it is a small project. It is not complicated. We have provided copies of some renderings of the proposed buildings and some floor plans. There was a recommendation in both the Board of Selectmen's comments to the state, as well as in our state eligibility letter requesting that we continue to work with the town in terms of design of the buildings. And to that end, based on prior experience, I was going to forward what we have to your design review committee so that they can then provide the zoning board with comments. Depending on what comes out of that meeting, or those comments, I should say, and of course, what comes out of discussions with the ZBA, we can then modify those architectural plans accordingly if we need to, and we can update those plans throughout this process so that we get to the final product when the board is ready to make a decision. Other than that, we're certainly here to answer any questions. I know the chairman had mentioned we're going to go through the town's comments, and I'll be happy to participate in that and provide any answers that I can. But if I could, I just give Seth an opportunity. Seth, is there anything that I may have missed or misstated here that you want to add?
Oh, I'll just add a couple things if that's all right. And I'll just
Sure, please.
introduce myself quickly. Seth Donahoe with Ducharme and Dillis. Our company's been providing the wetland science services, land surveying, and civil engineering related to the project. And as Attorney DeShane's mentioned, very early on in the process, we sought to define the edge of the wetland resource areas on the site. And we did do that, and those were approved by the Conservation Commission. And in doing that, we wanted to make sure that we could design a project. The commission has a desire to have no alterations within 25 feet of wetland, and that's something that we were able to respect with this layout. And one of the things we go through when we lay out these sites, it's really a balancing act. We would like to bring something to the board that has the least amount of waivers, that's in most conformance with what the town is looking for. I think we've done that here, and that we've been able to position things at a maximum offset to the wetlands and keep kind of a usable yard area and really minimize the entrances onto both roads where essentially instead of having 4 driveways, we've combined those into 2. And part of what Attorney DeShane's said is that early in the process, we met with both the fire and police chief, and they had some comments about moving the driveways and actually widening some of the driveways so that if some mutual aid from adjoining town like Berlin needed to come here, we could accommodate those vehicles. And that's something that's reflected in the plan that you're looking at. We already made those changes, so that's what you're looking at before you. Other than that, I think Attorney DeShane's outlined how we got here and what we're working with. So I'll turn it over to the chairman if you have any questions for us.
So on that topic of what you met with the fire department, did I see something that said that the buildings would be sprinklered?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect, yeah. Well, I know from past 40Bs, I'm appreciative of the fact that there are a minimal amount of waiver requests, so that, I mean, does speak to the small scale size of the project. Certainly it's, as we know, probably the minimum size project that you could propose. So we're starting at probably a better starting point than in some projects where we have to know that at some point it's going to be scaled down. So this looks like a good workable start from my review of the documentation so far. I'd certainly open it up to any questions from the board, other members, and if they don't have any at this point, then maybe we go to the next discussion topic on the agenda. But let's see if anyone else has a comment.
Quick comment. Brad Reed. I basically live on the same wetland that this project will be continued on. And I do have blue spotted salamanders and yellow spotted turtle on my properties. So I question whether there are any endangered species on this property.
I can tell you that the natural heritage maps do not reflect any known habitat areas within our project site.
Well, that doesn't answer the question, but I thought it asked the question anyway.
Any other board questions at the moment? So, Erica, it doesn't sound like there are. Can you see?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, sure.
Let me, can you hear me okay?
Who's speaking?
This is Tom Kashuba.
And Tom, what, are you a resident or what's
I'm
your?
a resident, I'm a butter, and I have quite a few thoughts here that I can blow through pretty quickly. I know.
Could you first for the record, identify your address as a butter?
173 Berlin Road. I'm almost across from the corner.
Okay,
And there's a couple other of us up the same common driveway that look down on that corner.
okay.
Forgive me, my naivete, but I do have a quick hit list here. If I'll just blow through it, some of it may not be applicable. Some of it make your eyes roll, but I would like to at least state it for the record, if you don't mind.
If you can be somewhat, there's no rush to, I mean, as far as what this agenda is, we'll certainly have more than one meeting, but if there's pertinent to this sort of.
It's all pertinent to this one project.
Right, and to the discussion of the preliminary presentation of the site, because we do have other topics to go on to, but go ahead.
Well, that's part of part of my thinking is we must not get lost into the application process or the gist of how things are usually done and try to take a more philosophical approach that gives Bolton the character that it has. In other words, let's just keep in mind that no matter how mechanized the process is, how traditional the process is, how common 40B actions are taken, that is still not the basis of reality. And we should always keep in mind the basis of reality, no matter what we end up having to do due to 40B. And hence my quick thoughts here. I'm speaking like among many others who are heavily concerned about this kind of thing and how it affects things like community texture and beauty, preservation, expansion of the open lands, which of course this does the opposite, preservation of our iconic farming motif. We're going to lose one of the dwindling number of farm corners in Bolton by this process. And reduction of noise, air, and light pollution that we've been trying to go through will only do the opposite there. Not a huge amount, but nevertheless another step in that direction. And also wildlife and things like that, spring peppers. The other guy mentioned two other things, and we also have migration paths going through here. So that's all affected, regardless of if the waivers step on this. We have to state it for the record that these things are on our minds. And moving along quickly, I'll try to be brief. And hence we got to remind ourselves of these basic tenets that we're all striving to do in Bolton, so that for the record, we can show how 40B projects like this undo that stuff, even though legally it's possible with the loopholes. That's fine. So I hope that we can get clarifications to collect public information to be added as fuel to final determinations and leading to, hopefully, some form of methodical and diligent studies that we can do to address these concerns, such as delineation of project's overall time frame. Impact to traffic at the corner. They say it's insignificant. Well, based on the traffic levels at that corner, that's very significant. Weekly, daily construction timing and schedules. COVID resilience of the people in charge of the construction project and maintaining project schedules, timing, and so forth, because if we go down this road, pun intended, we want to make sure that they don't end up going bankrupt. No offense, but it's a possibility for everybody. And hence we will have committed to this path for a bad reason and end up with a little damage from it. Finally, to confirm developer commitment and worthiness to being a servant of the public trust. We're giving them our trust, because after all, business is not a right, it's a privilege to work with the community that the business serves. Lastly, not last, but lastly, impact studies, significant traffic increase. We've already touched on that. Destruction of another iconic open land crossroads. I mentioned that. And then we got the case that he nicely listed on all the waivers, the runoff infringement, wetlands infringement. Lot size goals particularly gets me concerned. These lots are infinitely smaller than the lot size on frontage that we've been trying to do for years in Bolton. These are they're not even lots. I'm not sure what to call them. Destruction of abutting land views and value. So our places are going to be affected by that. And we're almost done. Property, the septic issues were discussed, so close to the wetlands. Traffic exposure and increase to child endangerment. Lastly, last point, impact to the species. So I hope that actions and the focus on such things above will hopefully keep Bolton in the town viewing always our total commitment to what we're trying to do and remind everybody as projects like this go forward, how far they take us away from it, legal or not.
Well,
And that's what I wanted to get out there.
that's fine. We do have a robust review process as far as the 40Bs. As you saw, we have a 40B consultant that helps us. We peer review the project for engineering and technical compliance and things like that. So we do take the comments and we'll incorporate that into the record. So,
Excuse me, I was wondering if I could just ask a few questions or make a comment.
all right, and who's this?
My name is Lisa Ann Martin. I'm at 17 Randall Road. I'm also in a butter.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I mean, I hear that you're saying that there's minimal waivers being asked for this 40B, but for the wetlands itself, there are 7 that I counted, and I'm pretty concerned about how close the leach field is to the wetlands. And I'm also wondering, so if I look at it from a totality, I understand the 40B. I'm happy. I'm very happy that it's a 25%, but at what risk are we doing this to the wetlands? And is there even a reserve leach field and septic system? I didn't see any in the plan. So I'm really, really concerned about this from a what happens with this and the water runoff and what happens into the streams that we have at least 2 streams and there's another wetlands below it across the street from it.
So on those, so that's where the peer review will come in and help guide the town. They'll be working on our behalf to take comments, but also give their advice on that type of impact. So we have the boards that will look at the process and the application as well as our peer review. So I don't have the answers to those questions right now. So but that's why we're starting this process.
Okay, can you tell me if in the design of this at all, there is a reserve septic system? Because I didn't see one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to address that if the board would like me to.
Sure, Seth.
The reserve system is spaced between the primary trenches, which is very typical in Bolton. The spacing between the trenches that you see on your plan is actually increased over what you would have on a regular one, so that in theory, a second system could fit in there. And truthfully, that's really beneficial in that all of the infrastructure for the system would already be in place. So in the event of a failure, everything is there so that essentially they could put in a new system without having to redo all of the plumbing coming out of the house. It's a much cleaner way to do things. So there's dashed lines designated on the plan, and that designates the reserve area, which is of equal size to the prime area that's there.
And is that closer to the wetlands than the current septic system is now?
The setback we've requested, actually the reserve trench is the closest, and that's what we've requested the setback to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So
Can I'd like to ask a question.
and who are you? Could you
I'm
identify?
Donna White, and I'm at 167 Berlin Road.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if, I mean, we're attending this meeting because we received a letter, but do we have any say in this change to our neighborhood? I'm assuming that this reserve septic system is one of those big, huge, ugly mounds, and all these houses put together, it totally changes the character of where we live. So I'm wondering if we actually have, if our input matters at all.
Well, your input does matter. You know, from speaking from other projects we've had in town, a butter in town resident comment, Terry does help shape a project. It can change how the project looks. It can change the look of the buildings. It can move things around. I mean, so in other projects, it's downsized the projects in the numbers. So your input is valid and valuable. It's part of your, residential right to be part of the process. So, so I'd encourage you to participate. But it's one factor of the application. So we have the boards that will give comment. We'll have abutters that will give comment. We'll have technical assistants that will provide comment and guidance to us as well. So that's my 2 cents on that. And Joe Pesnola, as the 40B consultant we have, can certainly speak to the role of the different participants if you need any other clarification.
Kashuba again, another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so after I read my little head rolling treatise, I was hoping to hear something about the intention to address some of those issues I mentioned that I delineated, just as sort of Donna was wondering too. So to get away from this feeling of everything is on a steamroller and it's 40B this and that, and okay, everything doesn't count.
Well, first of all, no one said that anything doesn't count, okay? So let's not mischaracterize that.
Okay.
It all counts. We take the commentary. If there's a question that's raised about a technical point of it, we ask our peer review to look at that. So your comments are vetted and passed along to the people that have the right expertise, whether it be the Board of Health, whether it be the Conservation Commission, whether it be our peer review. There could be things that our own board would have answers to or provide guidance, but I don't want to get down the road that people feel that, okay, we're steamrolling. We have a process to follow within the Mass General laws. We have a 180-day process to conduct the hearings. This is just the first of them. So yes, we'll take the commentary and feedback, but there's not a steamroller effect.
And okay, I take what you're saying to heart, but how will these other people hear these comments? Are they going to play this recording and walk through everything we've said? How does that work? How do they get these comments to these other people that aren't here?
So Erica Irate is our planning administrator, but also our zoning administrator, and commentary, meeting minutes, all those types of things are produced. Letters go back and forth to the different boards. When we hire a peer review, all the documentation, the plans, the whole comprehensive permit gets forwarded to them, and they, start their review. So,
Okay, thank you, Erica. I hope your shorthand is good.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask a question.
and who's this?
My name is Iris Bergero. I'm at 27 Randall Road.
Okay, Iris.
And I'm concerned about having 4 houses on such a small lot. If this were not a 40B project, there would only be 1 house allowed on a lot that size. So why is the developer using a 40B to add 2 additional houses, 3 in fact, for his own benefit, apparently?
Well, so my understanding of why the developer would do that is the town does not have the prescribed 10% minimum of affordable housing, and without that affordable housing stock in town, the developer has the right under Mass General Law to propose a project that allows a density bonus if it includes a 25% affordable housing component. So yes, while normally it would be the traditional lot size in one home, because the town doesn't have its prescribed 10% affordable, it sort of opens us up to projects like this. Joe, can you confirm, or is there any other additional information I should provide?
No, the whole concept of the comprehensive permit law, chapter 40B, was that the state was trying to incentivize the creation of affordable housing without subsidies, without having the state or the federal government infuse money to a project to build affordable housing, but put it on the private developers, nonprofits, for-profit developers, and the subsidies internal. It's the additional market rate units allow for the building and of the affordable unit and to be able to sell it at a prescribed price. And all of that is highly regulated within the process. Additionally, what the law did was, obviously, the state legislature didn't want that to go kind of unfettered, so it also controls the profit of the developer to no more than 20% of the total project costs. And there's a whole process after the project is done to make sure that that's the case. They have to have a full accounting audit, and that is reviewed by the state and made sure that it is right and ready, and that the profits weren't exceeded. If the profits are exceeded, then the developer needs to cut a check to the town of whatever windfall profit is above the 20%, and the town uses that for creation of their own affordable housing.
But in the best of situation, if the town had its prescribed numeric percentage of affordable housing, a project like this, a 1 acre or basically 2 acre parcel project, would only be able to have its one single family home.
Correct. Once the town achieves that 10%, then it's not exposed to, doesn't have to entertain any of the comprehensive permit applications.
But this process is then fait accompli.
Can I ask a question? In all fairness, it's admirable that somebody wants to do a 40B, but the fact that they're only doing 4 units, which one doesn't really impact Bolton really effectively. So let's be real honest about what's going on here. Somebody is taking a 2-point-something acre lot and putting 4 tiny houses on it, which is fine. I like small houses. And they're using 40B as an excuse. And on top of that, let's be honest, they're compromising our wetlands. And that is my big problem. You want to put 4 houses on a 2.7 lot, 2 whatever acre lot, and not compromise wetlands, that's right. But you have now a septic system that houses 12 bedrooms. And this is unacceptable. If I wanted to do something on my land, I wouldn't be able to do it, period. But because somebody has a 40B, they can do it and not even make that much of an impact on Bolton's housing.
So,
This is really, really just an excuse.
It's a state issue. It's not necessarily an excuse. It may be a reason for a contributing reason why it's this way, but we're at the start of the process, and that's why we'll have it peer reviewed. And if there are components of the project that we can move further away from the detriment of being near wetlands, the peer review guidance will advise us on that, and we work with the developer on those. So any project that we've done with the 40Bs that we've done in town, the picture you're looking at right now may not be the exact picture when it's finished. The things may get moved around, and it may work in some of the commentary from the town and the other boards. So this is just a starting point.
Tom here again. It's like I think we all understand the loopholes of 40B somewhat. But, if we look at it a different way, you could say, okay, only put 1 affordable housing unit on that 2 acre lot.
Exactly.
That's not what the.
Or at worst case, one affordable and 1 regular, and at least have 1+ acres. See what I'm saying? It's to pack 4 is just a profit motive and not a 40B. It's not altruistic at all. It's like profit only, 40B loopholes to allow it.
Right. Why does it have to be that many houses? Like,
Yeah.
what?
again,
If you did 3, if they did
Or
2.
if you did 2, you put 2 houses on a lot that's only supposed to have 1, but to put 4 houses on a lot that's supposed to have 1 just because to get around, because you have a loophole to get around, I don't think you should be able to like maximize your rule breaking just because you can.
again, it wouldn't be,
We lost you, Gerard. Your audio's off.
Thank you.
Your audio is muted, Gerard.
is that better?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, so I was saying, it's not necessary that should be characterized as breaking rules. The framework that we have to work with within Mass General Law, the zoning board has to, conduct the hearing in accordance with the Mass General Law rules and regulations, and the 25-75 mix is what the law allows. So that's 3 affordable, 1 25% is affordable. So again, we just can't say, well, we don't like that, we're going to have 1 and 1, unless something through the peer review process, whatever was, they say this doesn't work on this property, and then we'll go from there. So
No, what he's saying, he is walking on the legal line. That's what we have to.
who's commenting? Who's talking? Okay. Erica, can you tell who was trying to talk?
I can't tell, no.
So let's go, for sake of time, because it's a little bit after 8, can you bring up the agenda? I think we should just maybe get into the discussion of a peer review, because a lot of the questions that came up from the people who did ask questions were going toward, like, how do we, make sure the project is done right. And that's the big component that we have to our, on our side of the fence, would be the peer review. So I think in past, while it is a small project, it does have components that I believe we should have a peer review conducted. Other board members' thoughts?
Absolutely. This is Brian Holmes.
Okay. So in the past, we've used Horsley Witten, we've used, I think there's been a couple, Judith Nitch. So I don't know if there's some current recommendations, Joe, for reviews for this type of project, this size, and
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, where there's the wetlands waivers and the wetlands issues, I think Horsley Witten would be a good choice, between Janet Bernardo, who would do the civil engineering portion, and Amy Ball, who would be the wetland scientist here.
Mhm.
They do a great job to advise the board and review the project from both the engineering aspects, such as the septic system, as well as the wetlands issues. And again, just to make sure everyone understands the process, this project would still have to seek approval from the Bolton Conservation Commission under the Massachusetts wetlands regulations. And they'd still have to go through that process, which is a public hearing process, notification of abutters, right of appeal, all of those things. The only thing that this board is looking at is the local wetland bylaw additional requirements that Bolton Conservation Commission has enacted that go above and beyond the Massachusetts wetlands regulations. So someone like Horsley Witten and in particular Amy Ball, their wetland scientist, their senior wetland scientist, she would look at those aspects of the project that are Bolton itself, with regards to why Bolton believes they need that additional protection, while how that is usually reviewed with a normal project process through the Conservation Commission, because again, the ZBA is acting in the place of the Conservation Commission with regard to that local wetland bylaw. So I think that would, Horsley Witten would probably be the best choice.
I'm not opposed. We've had good service from on other projects, so.
And I can certainly reach out to them and get a proposal to see if number one, they're available and can are willing to participate. I don't think we would check with the developer to make sure there's no conflicts of interest with regards to Horsley Witten. I don't think they would question their capabilities, qualifications, but I can check with Janet and make sure they have the time and are willing to submit a proposal. And then the developer could fund an account with the town to pay for that review. The way that this happens is the consultant comes up with a proposal with a fee. The developer's asked to provide a check for that amount. There's an account known as a 53G account that's established within the town with the town treasurer, and then Horsley Witten or whoever the consultant is submits bills to the town, and the town pays them. So there's separation. Although the developer's paying for the review, there's separation and no impact, or the consultant doesn't have to feel beholden to the developer. They are working for you, the ZBA, and the town.
Do we need a motion, Erica, to have Joe do that on our behalf to reach out to Horsley Witten?
I think that would be a good idea.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could I just interject for a moment?
Sure.
We would ask the board to not only vote to allow Mr. Pesnoa to get that, a proposal, but also that in the event, which I suggest will be the case, that proposal is acceptable to the developer, that we be allowed, or the town be allowed to just submit the information to them so that they can begin work. We don't want to lose a month or 6 weeks just to come back and say, yeah, that proposal is fine, let's get the peer review. We'd like to just be able to fund the 53G account based on the proposal and have the information sent to Horsley Witten so that they can get working on this, because it will take some number of weeks for them to review it. And again, this is assuming they are available, but I suspect they are. I hope they are. But in other words, have Joe get the proposal, we will more than likely, it will be fine. We will fund the 53G, and then Horsley Witten can begin their work so that by the next time we meet, which I suspect will be in a month or so, that work could potentially be complete.
I have no problem with that, other than, if, as long as we know we get a robust, valid proposal or scope of work acknowledged, and the fee, if you have a letter to Erica that says you've seen whatever the proposal is and you concur, then we could go from there.
Thank you.
Is that okay, Joe and Erica?
Yes.
Reasonable? Okay. So, so we need a motion to allow our 40B consultant, Joe Pesnoa, to solicit a proposal from the firm of Horsley Witten to conduct their review. Is that correct? Okay. So I'll motion that we allow Joe Pesnoa, our peer review, our 40B consultant, to solicit a peer review proposal from the from Horsley and Wood.
I second. That's Brian Holmes.
Okay. So all in favor of that motion to seek that proposal, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Were there any nays?
Is this for board members only?
Yes, as board members only. So was that everyone, Erica?
I believe so.
Okay, so that motion passed. So we'll get that taken care of. And I see that it's 8:15, so I think the next item we should really discuss is maybe structuring the next hearing. Normally we would propose a site walk, but I'm not sure under the current COVID-19 conditions whether we can, have a board, a ZBA board go out to the site unless there was some type of social distancing.
You could always make that a drive. You can make it a drive-by.
Could we do a video? Could we do like a Zoom or a FaceTime or something?
I don't know. This is new. This is a new world. So we could either schedule the site walk a little further down the road. I mean, the project could take, I don't know if we have to do it right away, and we could see if some of this passes. I don't have that concern, but I do think that at some point we'd have to do we should do a site walk.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Mhm.
I think the board would benefit from having the peer review results in hand prior to the site walk so that they could physically see any issues the peer reviewer identifies. Again, I don't mean to be presumptive, but I'm expecting that we will meet in May. So maybe at the May meeting, we could decide on a site visit. Maybe the world will be a little different then. And but unless you have a strong feeling that you'd like to get the site visit done before we meet again, I think it would be beneficial to wait and schedule it when we meet again with the benefit of the peer review report in hand.
I don't disagree with that. My hesitancy is, it's going to be for safety, and I don't want to compromise, anyone, whether it be a town board member or an abutter that shows up to some type of walk like that. So that works for me. I'm sure, but I only speak for myself. If other board members have any comments on that.
That works for me.
Brad Reed, I would just play it by ear at this point to see what happens.
Okay.
Certainly, we can't do a meeting before May. If the anything that we can walk around in. So
You need a mouse?
once we get the peer review, then we can make some decisions.
Okay, so why don't we assume that that's when we'll conduct the peer review will be after we have, we'll do the site walk after we have some peer review commentary. But it will be necessary to do one. And then maybe at this point, just a poll, was this Zoom process or utility workable?
It was a little tricky getting started, but it seems to be working for me.
Okay, because if it's a good utility, if it helps with the process, we could certainly then propose a continuation to another date. Erica was speaking to me earlier about some recent guidance from, I think, the governor's office as far as whether we even have to continue, we could continue indefinitely while this COVID process is, situation is still with us. But if this process works with Zoom, then we can potentially look in the May calendar and schedule another Zoom meeting. Any
I think it
comments?
works. This is Brian. I think it works fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you acknowledge it, Randy? Does that
Yeah.
work for you?
It works, yeah.
Okay, so with that, does anyone have a time in May that they don't think they could be available for another meeting, sort toward the, I guess, middle of May, a month from now? That would maybe give us time to solicit the peer review and get them some information?
You know,
Well, I
the
won't be traveling,
governor's
so.
got the states shut down till the 7th, so probably after the 7th.
Yeah, but if we did it by Zoom, right, certainly after the 7th. But as far as if we did it this way online, you know, we wouldn't necessarily have to be out and about in town hall or things like that. So, Eric, can you look at a calendar?
I can certainly do that. I think also what will play into scheduling this meeting, though, is Horsley Witten's availability and their timeline.
Mhm.
It may be prudent to push it out a
Third week or something, or
Erica, we lost you.
I like Erica's idea for what it's worth.
yep. Let's see. Erica's still, if we lost her, or she's just looking at her map in her calendar. Yeah, she's still listening on the host. She may have had to just table for a second to look at her calendar. Well, that's a nice view.
Yeah, disappeared.
Yeah, so she's not sharing her screen anymore. She'll probably be logging back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a little extra time would be good because,
Yeah.
as you said, you're going to be reviewing our comments. So I was hoping beyond all the titular things you said as part of the normal project, and I understand all that. We're just hoping that there's more feedback on those other concerns too, not just, you know.
Yeah, and Tom, on your, I would recommend you maybe email Erica, our town planner.
Yes,
and-
okay, so I'll send it to Erica, my list?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
She's like the conduit for our board. She will take any emails, letters, and you know, make sure they get to the right one, to all the board members, and then two to the designated, you know.
And I'll certainly try to touch bases with my local on my hill, my two other abutters that are in the conference now too. That's three of us, try to get our thoughts together and
Perfect.
see if they got anything to add, and I can forward that to Erica.
Mhm.
And that helps them then become part of the public process.
Okay, good. Is Erica still down for the count?
I'm looking at it, let's see. Must have wondered.
Hey,
She
this
back?
is, hi, this is Rebecca Longbow.
Oh, hi.
Kay, hi, Kay seems to be the host now on Zoom. Is
Oh.
Erica in the waiting room?
Oh, let's find out.
I don't see the way on my drop down, so. Right, yeah, it does say, how'd you get designated the host there, Kay?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have to change my lighting. I look terrible. Well, I, for one, have Erica's email as well, and I already spoke to her, so I can proceed with that part.
I don't have her mobile, and I know she's working remotely, so can't call her to see which she's logging back in.
We could always follow up with Erica to schedule the next meeting, because she'll make it a public. It'll be announced to the public anyhow.
Oh, I'm gonna try calling her cell phone right now. Bear with me.
Okay, because we have to, at least for purposes of the continue to a date certain. So, so just either we pick a date or she comes back with a proposed date that that she has. Now you're sideways, Kay.
Am I?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, she's talented.
Yeah, really. Calisthenics there.
Yeah. How's that?
Very good. You look
Am
great.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I can't find the,
Hi, Erica has lost internet connection, so she's calling in momentarily.
Okay.
okay. I still get to be the host.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, who's this? Oh, there's Doug?
Doug Deshane.
Yep.
Just from our point of view, Tuesday nights is a good night for my team. I don't know if it is for the boards, but Tuesday nights are best for us currently.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the calendar and I see that May 12th would be 5 weeks from now, Tuesday, May 12th. So if I might suggest that as a starting point.
I was going to suggest the 21st, but
Yeah. I actually have a commitment on the 12th of May.
How about the 19th? I'm available the 19th.
The 19th is good.
Okay,
19th works for me.
19th is true. So we at least have a quorum for the 19th. Okay.
Fine.
Gerard, I'm back. I
welcome
apologize.
back.
My my internet failed, and so I'm just dialing in.
Okay.
So May 19th.
That's what we're looking at. The applicant proposed the 12th, but people, at least one person on the board is not available, but the 19th seems to be working, so.
Okay.
Does that work into your schedule?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a
What day of
motion-
the week is that?
That's
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion to continue till May 19th at 7 p.m. via Zoom.
Sorry, could I just, if people have time, just ask a very general question about this state 40B law?
Okay.
Does the 40B law actually give the developer the right to bypass any and all zoning regulations?
They can request a waiver from the zoning regulations and
oh, go ahead.
you know, whether we grant them or not is part of the process. But if we don't grant them, you know, if they're deemed to then make the project uneconomic, you know, there's appeals and things like that. I think Joe Pesnola can probably speak more technically about it, but yes, they can ask for a broad base of waivers, but they still have to be reviewed and granted.
And what are the state laws say about granting them? Like, what are our us as a town, what is our responsibility, I guess, or our requirements in terms of granting that?
We will have to look at the health, safety impacts, correct, Joe? Are you muted, Joe?
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Essentially, the answer to the question is yes. They can ask for waivers from any and all local requirements. The most The common one are zoning bylaw requirements, but as you can see from this project, they're also asking for the local wetland bylaws. And the way that it works is the presumption for the board that the board has to start with is that the need for affordable housing outweighs the local concerns. And the local concerns are defined as these local regulations and requirements. So 1 house per acre is defined as a local concern. They're asking a waiver for that to do 4 houses on the single lot. So what has to be done through this process of the public hearings and input of data and information, peer review, engineering comments from town boards, and comments from all of the neighbors, is to start to amass the balancing test that the board has to consider. And if the local concerns begin to be seen as holding more weight, and there's more importance than the need for affordable housing, then the balance gets tipped. That presumption gets overcome. But what I can tell you is that the balancing test is a very difficult one to overcome and to tip the other way. And many towns, both from not only the standpoint of the residents, but the boards themselves, grapple with that and may deny a project because they believe that their local concerns are more weighty and can tip that balance. But when it goes to the Housing Appeals Committee on appeal, if the board was to deny it, the Housing Appeals Committee looks at it very, very differently. They look at that initial presumption that the town's not at 10%, and therefore the balance is tipped in that direction. So,
and do you think, I mean, from what you've seen in the past, that they would consider one extra low-income house worth bypassing wetlands regulations? I mean, it's not really contributing much to our low affordable housing.
right.
So
There is a whole economic test here, in that say the board was to modify the project through issuance of a comprehensive permit that condition that they only build 2 houses, 1 market and 1 affordable.
That sounds good.
The developer would appeal that and say that condition has rendered the project uneconomic, and that would open up the door to a review of the project finances and look at, okay, what is the definition of uneconomic? Well, the state says uneconomic is a project that earns a return of less than 15%. So I had told you before that the developer has to limit the profit to no more than 20%. So the window that he lives in is between 15 and 20. And if the analysis of the financials of a conditioned project on 2 houses was that the profit was less than 15%, that condition would be thrown out by the HAC as rendering the project uneconomic.
So 2 houses that are slightly a hair more upscale would generate more profit, and it's conceivable that it could meet all of the criteria, get affordable housing, but be limited to 2 houses.
Correct, but the board's job right now is to review the project that's been put before them, and until the board proposes a condition or a series of conditions that the developer believes would render the project uneconomic, the board is not allowed to delve into the project financials. So if that statement is never made, if by the developer that we believe that condition or that series of conditions will render the project uneconomic, the financials are off the table as far as the board's ability to review that. What most developers will do is not say that, not say you've rendered the project uneconomic. They would just take the denial or take the conditioned approval on go build 2 houses, and they'd go to HAC. And at HAC would say, well, here's the fun. And now they can look at the financials. They'd look at the financials, say, yes, it's uneconomic. And they would restore the project to the original 4 unit.
That sounds like a viable course.
So does the appeals group often say, go ahead and build close to wetlands just so that you can have one more affordable housing unit? Is that a common thing that they do? Go ahead and damage the environment for?
Well, understand that there's that many Chapter 40B projects ask for waivers from local wetland bylaw setbacks. That doesn't give them free rein to do whatever they want within 100 feet of a wetland. Within 100 feet of a wetland is still jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission under the State Wetlands Protection Act. And the project still needs to be vetted and go through that process with application to the Conservation Commission under the State Wetlands Protection Act. And they need to prove to the Bolton Conservation Commission that what they're doing within 100 feet, notwithstanding their local bylaw setback requirements, but what they're going to do within that 100 feet is not going to negatively impact the wetland. So they need to put all the measures and so forth in place and prove to the commission that that's the case. And that process will happen, and it will most likely happen at some point, either coincident with this comprehensive permit process or after this comprehensive permit process. So that's where that lies. But yes, many Chapter 40B projects are located within local town wetland setbacks to wetlands.
But there still is nothing preventing us from suggesting a different number of houses.
At some point, correct, but it sort of comes toward, we at least get through the peer review process to see what shakes out as far as if they find something technical that is so hard to overcome that we would then say, okay, it can't be built at 4, so some of these questions will be reviewing as we go through the process. So.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to, hold off on any other comments. Say we have other meeting agendas we have to do as a board tonight. So let's get the date finalized for the continuation of the hearing, and then we can move on to our next line of a topic for the board that isn't part of this this hearing. So did we have a date, right? Was it May 19th at 7 p.m. by Zoom?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, you want to motion that?
Yeah, I motion that we continue the hearing to Tuesday, May 19th, 7 p.m.
Via Zoom?
via Zoom.
Okay, perfect. Second?
Second.
My second by Brad. All in favor of the motion to continue to May 19th at 7 p.m. via Zoom? Say aye.
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 Okay, no nays? All right, so we will continue till May 19th. Thanks for participating, and we'll iron out any technical difficulties for the next one, but I think it went pretty well. Thanks, Erica.
Yes, Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
Erica, thank you all for your efforts in putting this together. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey, Doug, maybe next time you trim this beard that's growing there.
Well, after looking at myself for the last hour and a half, I think you're right.
No, yeah, but you look pretty good, let me tell you. All right.
All right.
Bye,
Good night.
folks.
Good night, everybody.
All right, so the board stay on because we have, I think, minutes to review.
Good night.
Good night, Joe, thanks. Whittling down.
Let's see, how do you get out of here? Start video and close, quit Zoom. Okay, I'm gone.
All right, Gerard. So there were draft meeting minutes from April 18th of 2019, and then draft meeting minutes from October 29th of 2019 that I distributed earlier this afternoon. Kay did send an email. She did catch one error, minor edit to the meeting minutes from October 29th, which I will correct. I think I meant to type attic and instead put attic. So I will.
Yeah, I didn't
change
think
that.
they needed an addict.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't judge, but you know.
Did anyone else have any comments on them? I read through them. I didn't catch that, but I thought they were in order.
Yeah, they looked fine to me.
I had scanned a set and just embedded a signature on to my copy and sent that back to Erica. What's the best process to document our approval, Erica?
So Pam, our town clerk, has forwarded information to me about how boards can approve minutes, and it's essentially I just need to type something at the very top of the meeting minutes that says that the board voted to approve it, and then essentially I just provide my initials, and that's it.
Great.
So I would say if if you incorporate Kay's edit, if that was the only edit anyone else had found, I certainly concur with the minutes as they were presented. Everyone else?
We need a motion.
I agree.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
I move that we approve the meetings as edited.
So do you want to
Second.
specify the dates, or is it broad okay, Erica?
That's fine. What I'll do is I'll incorporate the dates when I write it into the meeting minutes.
Okay. So Brad has a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Kay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. No nays. Your motion to approve is unanimous, Erica.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And the
So
board's comfortable with the Zoom process? It
I
was
think
pretty good.
Pretty
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I
that
was
good.
thinking of is we might have to remind people in the beginning of next meeting that they just can't openly talk. Like,
I agree.
Well,
I think we should just
Yeah.
say, I know it's tough, but we should just say, listen, we're normally in a room where people don't talk over one another and they have to raise their hand and ask the chairman to speak. And I just think we need to ask them to do that.
Maybe everyone should be mandated to be on mute until they raise their hand and are asked to speak.
Yeah.
Wait, Erica,
that's a good call.
If you're the host, are you able to mute everybody? And then
Yes.
take them off mute?
I am able to mute everyone. So I can do that. Tonight, I didn't click the setting where participants could unmute themselves. So that's what could happen tonight, is that they could unmute themselves even if I muted them. So I can change that for the next meeting. We can also require them to raise, if they're a computer participant, to raise their hand through Zoom, and then we will call on them. That is an option. However, towards the end of the public hearing, public comment portion of it, I would have to unmute everyone in case there was someone on the phone that doesn't have the option of raising their hand so that they have the opportunity to speak. I just have to be cognizant of that, but that could be an option.
Yeah. And I think if we
I'm
just
hoping
tell
we
people
don't have
that-
to go through this.
Yeah.
Times, right.
I think if we just tell
Good
people
point.
that at the beginning of the meeting that, you know, this is the new, you know, this is how it's going to work, they'll understand and be fine with it.
Oh, yeah, we'll do a housekeeping
Yeah.
component to the agenda next time, just to remind people.
That sounds good. I did provide, I did set up some guidelines for using Zoom in public meetings in general. We can certainly go through that very quickly at the onset of the next meeting, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think those would be good. I read those today. Those would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's 8:43, a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, seconded?
Second.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Great.
motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn passed. All right, thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Be safe.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
See you.
Stay
Bye.
away from COVID.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.